The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
It's CPAC Friday, you bastards.
Orlando is awesome. It's not as nice as Cancun.
The winter blast has now left millions with unprecedented storm damage, massive electricity bills.
More than 8 million are still without safe drinking water. How many leftists does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's not funny! Today, at an emergency meeting, a frightening admission from ERCOT, which runs the state power grid. They were 4 minutes and 37 seconds from a total statewide blackout. AOC is telling us she was murdered!
New York Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez volunteered at the Houston Food Bank this morning. Ocasio-Cortez organized a fundraiser to benefit 5 million relief organizations.
You gotta put your mask on. Sadly, I've got 2. This is just dumb.
Chuck Pryor is the director of this small Houston funeral home, and ever since the global pandemic came to Texas, a state hit hard by COVID-19, the phone has not stopped ringing.
Ted Cruz is doing shtick at CPAC. Really? What is that? That is like a complete personality, remake. CPAC, yes, this is the CPAC weekend. We will talk about it, but Shecky needs to sit down and take a break here. I really, honestly, I don't even understand. Like, what does he think is funny about his state literally freezing to death and then starving to death and then getting gouged to death with $6,000? Wow. So I just need to apologize very quickly about yesterday. I tweeted that I was sorry that I was not here yesterday because so much happened yesterday. Oh, my God. We passed the Equality Act. The parliamentarian ruled on whether or not we could fight for 15 or, yeah. Okay, so it was because my dog, Alan, Alan was playing at the dog park, and he literally tore a ligament, like completely tore it. In his hind leg. Now, once you learn words like hock, like his hock and stuff, you're like in for $5,000, right? You know that. The second that you hear, hock and ligament, so anyway, he needed surgery, is what it is. And when they got in there, they found that his knee, the cartilage in his knee, had just worn away, and his knee was dislocated. I don't know. And they had to put a plate in, so it was a major thing. Okay, I will say that for those of you who are dog lovers, pet lovers, cat lovers, some of you actually, Roy. You know Roy, right? Roy takes care of injured animals. Roy is really amazing. Roy takes care of injured and discarded horses, and he was supposed to come and do a work day so that I could, combine Alan being, in the hospital but his dog got sick too. His dog has pneumonia. It's really, so when I look at, poor Roy having to make, decisions, end of life decisions for his dog, and me just, trying to learn how to do doggy rehab, I'm very grateful that I'm doing doggy rehab because, it's just, your pets are your family. So that's why I wasn't here, and I really apologize. Meanwhile, CPAC started today, and they brought in the golden calf. Listen, I got to tell you this. This is the weirdest freaking thing I've experienced in quite some time from the hypocritical Republicans. Like I said, don't ever expect consistency from them because they will say and do whatever in order to retain power. Why? Because they don't believe God is love. Their love is for power, you see. And until love of God replaces love of power, we're always going to have a Republican Party. That's just the way it is. So yesterday was the big debate on the House floor, on the House side of the Congress. And I have to tell you, this is something people don't really pay a whole lot of attention to, but you really should. Congress has only been in session since Monday. You understand that? So everybody's like, well, Biden's been president for 30 days now, 30 days, and I like, what has he done? What has he done? That's because Congress has only been there since Monday. You understand? They had a President's Day break. They weren't there. So from Monday till today, they managed to pass the Equality Act. Tonight, they will pass the stimulus package. It will have the $15 an hour minimum wage in it. We'll talk about what's next for that. But it will, and they'll do it tonight. And, so meanwhile, yesterday was the big Equality Act debate. Now, what is the Equality Act? It is a sad thing that we need it. Truly sad, but we do. It is an addition to the Civil Rights Act, that actually extends protection in housing, in employment, in almost every area of life where discrimination still exists against transgendered people specifically. And you might be surprised to learn that there are many members of the House whose children, brothers, sisters, doctors that testified yesterday in the Senate are transgendered human beings. And the amount of hatred that has been, I mean, if you didn't think we needed it, just if you listened to the debate yesterday, sadly, you realized we did need it. And it passed. It literally passed. And 3 Republicans voted for it. That shocked me. 3. 2 from New York and 1 from, I think, Illinois. I'll check. But anyway, it was really quite a debate. Greg Steube, he's the Republican from Florida. He decided it's a God thing. It's a God thing. And his God is not the God of love. His God is not love. His God is a hateful, sinister, priggish, rules God that knows, knows everything, and he knows what God knows. He knows.
Deuteronomy 22:5 states, "A woman must not wear men's clothing, nor a man wear women's clothing, for the Lord your God detests anyone who does this." Now, this verse isn't concerned about clothing styles, but with people determining their own sexual identities. It's not clothing or personal style that offends God, but rather the use of one's appearance to act out or take on a sexual identity different from the one biologically assigned by God at birth. In his wisdom, God intentionally made each individual uniquely either male or female.
He did.
When men or women claim to be able to choose their own sexual identity, they are making a statement that God did not know what he was doing when he created them.
No.
I'm going to quote directly from Dr. Tony Evans' commentary Bible on this passage of Scripture. Men and women equally share in bearing the image of God, but he has designed them to be distinct from and complementary toward one another. The gender confusion that exists in our culture today is a clear rejection of God's good design. Whenever a nation's laws no longer reflect the standards of God, that nation is in rebellion against him and will inevitably bear the consequences.
I hate your suit. Greg Steube knows the will of God. Can I just mention this little factoid that crossed my mind listening to this hatred yesterday? So God created us in God's image, correct? Is that correct? If I'm reading the Bible correctly? All right. So God created Eve. She was a woman. God created Adam. He was a man. Doesn't that mean that God is both? Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Greg. And I don't think that you know what each person was created sexually, how each person was created, like what God created. I just don't think you know that. Because it never dawned on you that we're created in the image of God, and God created Eve and Adam and Steve. So he must have been both. Listen, this was really sick and twisted stuff. I must tell you, the Democrats handled this so magnificently, so beautifully, so well. The only thing missing was my conclusion that God is both. But it was a gorgeous moment.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Here's Representative Al Green of Texas.
You used God to enslave my foreparents. You used God to segregate me in school. You used God to put me in the back of the bus. Have you no shame? God created every person in this room. Are you saying that God made a mistake? This is not about God, it's about men who choose to discriminate against other people because they have the power to do so.
Yep.
My record will not show that I voted against Mr. Cicilline having his rights. My record will show that when I had the opportunity to deliver liberty and justice for all, I voted for rights for all.
It is so interesting how they, the Republican Party, you know, they bring up the God thing, and they forget that God created women, God created men, and everything in between in God's image. Isn't that interesting? That they leave that part out. They leave that part out. Why? Why do they do it? To advance their careers is why they do it. Because if they read the Bible, explain to me why at CPAC, the golden calf, what would Moses do in the face of the golden calf? The golden calf was literally wheeled out before the people. Did you see this? This is unfreaking believably freaky, okay? Here is the golden idol, the golden Trump idol being wheeled out at CPAC. Look at this thing. Look at him.
Throw it up, Trump, throw it up.
Awesome. Oh my. Oh. Look, there's Aaron, everybody. That's Aaron right there. Wheeling out the golden calf. Oh my God, it's wearing flip-flops. Okay, so CPAC is crazy town, as you know, and it's anti-biblical because I tell you, when Moses came down from the mountain, from the Sinai, and he found Aaron and all those guys hanging out and worshiping the golden calf, oh, he got peeved. Yes, thou shalt not have false idols, right? He got peeved. You know what he did to the golden calf? Just saying. Here's a suggestion. He burnt it. He ground it down like you do in your pot grinder, like that. He ground it down like that, and yes, they made people drink it. Yes, so you could scatter it, you could drink it, you could snort it, shoot it, smoke it, you could do whatever, but you got to get rid of the golden calf because this will peeve off everybody who understands the Bible's meaning. You see, and Greg Stubbe really needs to shut up about the will of God when CPAC is literally wheeling out a golden idol, a golden Trump. Wow, that is just, that was a wow. That was, I mean, Katy Perry never saw a golden idol like that. This is just bizarre. This is really, it's crazy town over there. You got Ted Cruz doing shtick about dying people in his state during a freaking weather, a sub-zero freeze, and people's pipes bursting and the ceilings imploding and people dying and trying to stay warm in shelters. And now it's funny, it's shticky. He went to Cancun. I mean, honestly, I couldn't. Who are these people, and why does anybody listen to anything that they have to say? Look, I'll tell you something. Mondaire Jones, he's a brand new representative from New York. And this guy, he gave an impassioned speech yesterday too, to these GOP people that just, wield the Bible as if it's a weapon, and that they understand it. They know it. I mean, it's bizarre, but Mondaire Jones is a gay, black American Congress member.
Today, we passed the Equality Act, which includes my bill, the Juror Non-Discrimination Act. This has been a long time coming, and it represents progress that, for me, was unbelievable when I was growing up. You see, to grow up poor, black, and gay is to not see yourself anywhere. It is also to feel completely unseen, as so many people around you invalidate your very existence. Growing up, I watched helplessly as opportunistic, straight politicians, mostly white, mostly male, used my basic human rights as a political football to further their careers.
Yes.
Had this legislation been enacted when I was growing up, it would have been direct evidence of the fact that things really do get better, that I didn't have to hide or cry so much. Thankfully, since childhood, things have gotten better. But that hasn't been because of the mere passage of time. It's been because LGBTQ advocates made life better. Today, we send a powerful message to millions of LGBTQ people around the country and indeed around the world that they are seen, that they are valued, that their lives are worthy of being protected. How remarkable that is.
It's truly remarkable. It's obviously something that is sadly needed. And I say sadly. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing on the floor yesterday. I just could not believe the Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, did you hear her at all? Oh, it's just too much for her to extend rights to others. It's just too much. So these QAnon theories have, I don't know, told her that there were two genders and that's it, male and female. And she got into a sign battle. I don't know if you know. There was a sign battle, a flag and a sign competing, battling in the halls of the Capitol. Because you had a member of Congress named Marie Newman, Representative Marie Newman. Representative Marie Newman has a transgendered daughter. And she views her transgendered daughter's announcement to her that she is a transgendered woman as the happiest day of her life. Why? Because it was that day that she understood her daughter could completely be her authentic self, and that is what she wanted for her child. Just happiness and a release from having to cry or hide who she authentically was. So Marie Newman put a transgender rights flag outside her office, which faces Marge's office, Marjorie Taylor Greene's QAnon office, right? So Marjorie Taylor Greene responded by being a mean girl and going out into the hallway and affixing to the wall a big sign outside saying there are, in all caps, two genders, male and female. Trust the science. The science is clear too, and you know what the science says? It says hate will eat you up alive. That's what science says.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Women have come very far in America, and our rights are extremely important. The work of our grandmothers and mothers to declare women as equal and push our way into the workplace and into sports has been remarkable achievements. Voting, being able to own businesses, achieve education the same as men in America is a gift that I feel so honored and blessed by. And I know that every American woman treasures this. But you see, the Equality Act will change all of that because it will put trans rights above women's rights, above the rights of our daughters, our sisters, our friends, our grandmothers, our aunts. It's too much.
It's too much, everybody. It's too much. It's just too much. I have to just sit here and shake my head. I do understand that the Republicans will say anything, do anything in order to retain power for themselves. Okay, it's absolutely obvious that Mitch McConnell wants to be majority leader once again, and that Republicans are only concerned with the next election and being the chairman of all the committees again, being the majority leader again in the House, in the Senate, being the majority whip in the House, in the Senate, to the point where Donald Trump is not only welcome at CPAC, but at CPAC, they're going to have all these different, they have all these different pullaways, right, where they discuss the issues of the day. And 7 of these panels are going to reassert this lie, the big lie, that Donald Trump won the election. They have named their panels so that everybody is clear that their panels are going to deal with the stolen election. Donald Trump is going to re-incite the base at CPAC on Sunday. This is his first speech since losing. And he's going to get up at CPAC and he's going to double down on the big lie, to incite the QAnons, to incite the base, to incite the militias, to incite the Proud Boys, to incite the 3%ers and the white supremacists and all these, freaky people who would do violence and have done violence. And the reason you know that it doesn't matter that these Trump supporters do violence to the people who just want power is because Mitch McConnell just told you so. It's not just the invite. Why should Donald Trump be invited when Donald Trump cost them the House over his 4 years, the Senate in the last election, 2 seats in Georgia, for God's sake? Georgia went blue, not just for the presidential, but also for 2 Senate seats. Warnock and Ossoff from Georgia, Democrats, okay? And Mitch McConnell literally stood on the floor, and so did Kevin McCarthy, stood on the floor, put the blame squarely where it belonged, on Donald Trump's big lie, on Donald Trump himself, not just factually, but morally, not just factually, but by design. Right? You remember that. You remember what Mitch McConnell told you about the complicity and the guilt of Donald Trump, right?
The last time the Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like.
Okay, and then subsequently he went to the floor, right? And he made a big speech saying that they were flying Donald Trump's flags. They were professing loyalty to Donald Trump as they were doing violence, right? And that the blame is squarely with Donald Trump, but he's a no. He's a no to remove Donald Trump from ever holding an office of honor or trust. So now we understand why he was a no, even though he knows Donald Trump was responsible for this unbelievable violence. It's because he is afraid of Donald Trump's voters. And he understands that his ticket to being majority leader, his ticket to power, is to placate and to play into the hands of those Trump supporters. Because now, all of a sudden, he's asked on Fox News, what will you do if Donald Trump's going to CPAC, and Donald Trump is going to he's going to propound the big lie, he's going to say it again, and he's going to set himself up for 2024. And it's very likely that in a primary, these voters, these violent ones, are the most active, and that they will show up and they will make him the nominee again. How would you feel about that?
If the president was the party's nominee, would you support him?
The nominee of the party? Absolutely.
Holy crap. Holy crap. And Mitt Romney actually said that Donald Trump, if he does run, Donald Trump will be the nominee. He's really sure about that.
Will President Trump continue to play a role in my party? I'm sure he will. He has by far the largest voice and a big impact in my party. I don't know about his family members, whether they intend to do that. But I expect he will continue playing a role. I don't know if he'll run in 2024 or not, but if he does, I'm pretty sure he will win the nomination.
Oh, my God.
You think he would win the nomination?
Oh, I think he'd win the nomination if he runs. I mean, a lot can happen between now and 2024 So,
like jail.
And I'm not great at predicting. I subscribe to Yogi Berra's philosophy in that regard. He said, I don't like predicting, particularly if the future's involved. So I don't really know what'll happen there, but I look at the polls, and the polls show that among the names being floated as potential contenders in 2024, if you put President Trump in there among Republicans, he wins in a landslide.
So Mitch McConnell knows this too. And that is why no matter how much damage Donald Trump does to our democracy, no matter how many lies he tells, no matter how many people he incites to violence, no matter how irresponsible a lunatic, fringy guy he is, no matter how horrible this man is for all things living, they will support him in his quest to be the president again, because they know that in primaries, only the most active, only the most militant, only the most hateful in the Republican Party show up to vote. And they know who those people are. And they understand that if Donald Trump decides to run in 2024, he could win. And that is why, everybody, it is so important to know that Donald Trump's taxes, which he has sought to shield his entire adult life from any scrutiny, is in the hands of a grand jury as we speak. And that Mark Pomerantz, who is a RICO attorney, a RICO lawyer, is explaining all of it to the grand jury right now.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The proposal of $15 an hour, so what is that? That's about $31,200 a year.
Oh, God.
That is still below virtually every metro area's living wage. In no state or metropolitan area have we looked in the country currently does the federal minimum wage match the living wage. In Missouri, for example, a single adult without children would need to make more than $19 an hour by the year 2025 to cover things like rent, food, transportation, just the basic living costs. In Fort Worth, it's just over $20 an hour you would need to squeak by. In New York City, of course, it's $29. You can see it's different around the country. The minimum wage is meant to be the bare minimum federal standard, the moral standard in this country. Beyond that, there's a lot of differences in states and localities. That's where you see wages change there. Now, the minimum wage worker, by the way, is not a teenager. A majority of them are women who have gone to some college, who have children. Only 1 in 10 minimum wage worker is a teenager. This isn't the first step on the rung of the American job market. People are making a living with 1 or 2 of these jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. And $7.25 an hour, which has been the minimum wage for 12 years, 12 years, is bus money. That is not a living wage. That is insufficient bus money. That's not even good bus money. I mean, that's not, you couldn't even, I mean, it wouldn't do as an honorarium. It's a dishonorarium for work, okay? It's just, it's so unbelievable. At this point, $7.25 an hour has to be viewed as pro-slavery, which, if we're going to look at the Constitution, is banned. But the Senate parliamentarian has decided that raising the minimum wage nationally is not related to COVID relief, even though the very first people who lost their jobs in COVID were probably people who worked for $7.25 an hour. They were the very first to lose their jobs. They are the very ones who cannot go to work, because typically those are service jobs, and typically they're held by women, and typically they're held by women with some college, education, and a third of people who work for minimum wage have children. But the Senate parliamentarian, who is a woman, said, no, you can't include it. You just can't have it. You just can't. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means that the Senate is going to get a bill tonight. The House is going to vote on the stimulus package with the $15 minimum wage included in it. And they're going to send it over to the Senate. And the Senate is going to have to figure out what to do about that. Also, that means that the Senate is going to have to either come up with a plan B, meaning do the $15 minimum wage as a standalone, or do the $15 minimum wage in some other way, meaning, hey, maybe we could keep big businesses who don't pay minimum wage from getting certain tax deductions if they don't pay minimum wage. Maybe we could do it in the tax code, right? Like that. And of course, the parliamentarian would have to rule that that's allowed because the entire 2017 tax cut was done through reconciliation with the same parliamentarian in place, Ms. Donahue. So that's an option, okay? But set all that aside, because here is now the situation. March 14th is the last check that goes out to people who can't work through no fault of their own because of lockdowns or because of COVID or because of, they're sick or, what. And so this stimulus package has to get passed before March 14th. Well, have a look-see at the calendar. This is the last weekend in February. And so you got what? Just about 2 weeks. Here's how this is going to go. The House on a Friday night is going to pass this, and they're going to send it over to the Senate. The Senate now has to figure out what to do about not being allowed to, include $15 minimum wage federally. And they're going to have to do something, and that's going to take a week. Okay. And then the House and the Senate have to go to a conference committee, because the bill has to be identical in order for it to go to the president. The bill has to pass in its identical form in both the House and the Senate in order to go to Biden's desk. And that's going to take a week. So this is going to be another 2 weeks before we get any result on the stimulus. Okay? Any result. Whether the Senate decides to put some sort of a tax penalty in the bill for companies that don't pay minimum wage, whether or not there's a standalone bill, they take it all out and they do it as a separate issue altogether. It doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is that the House and the Senate's bill is not going to match, because the House bill has the minimum wage increase in it and the Senate is not allowed to do it. So we're looking at another 2 weeks, and I don't know how many people can hang on for dear life by the tips of their fingernails, but that's what we have. We have we have March 14th is almost a definite deadline where people literally are going to go belly up. Now, we're waiting in line as if this is, the 1970s Soviet, communist Russia. Okay? I mean, people are waiting in line for every damn thing in this country. Everything. You used to hear about waiting in line for government cheese and think, oh, well, that was a long time ago and it didn't have anything. Yeah, well, people are waiting in line now for a box of vegetables. People are waiting in line for a COVID vaccine. People are just getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to dial in, to try 6 o'clock in the morning to try and get an appointment for a COVID. And then if you're not over 65, you can't even apply unless you cheat the system somehow. You say, oh, well, when I was little, I had this, or, I had that, or, 5 years ago, I had cancer. I refuse to play that card, but I know people that do it, but I'm not doing. So you're waiting in line for that. You're waiting in line for everything in this country. Everything. And Donald Trump is going to CPAC, and the only issue he's going to sell to these lunatic, fringy people as they worship the golden idol of Donald Trump in flip-flops made out of a golden crust of some sort, is to incite them to believe that the election was stolen. Not a damn thing about ratepayers in Texas, not a day. Now, I want you to know that while Shecky over there is doing shtick at CPAC, okay, while Ted Cruz thinks it's freaking funny that he went to Cancun, I want you to understand that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who they tried to blame for the power outage in Texas, how did they get there from here? Let me remind you real quick. They said her Green New Deal, which, by the way, is not in effect anywhere in this country, anywhere, not in the Bronx, not in Queens, not in Texas, certainly not in Texas, okay, that it was her fault that Texas lost power because they were using frozen windmills to generate power. Now, we went over this. Texas does not use windmills in the winter to generate any power, but even if they did, it would only be 20% of the mix of natural gas, oil, coal, and renewables. All right, so we know that that's a lie. Meanwhile, what did she do? AOC understood what I was telling you the other day, that Politics 101 is you show up when there's a disaster to do constituent services, to take care of your people. And Ted Cruz decided to go to Cancun. She, on the other hand, is from the Bronx and Queens and decided that she would raise money to feed Texas. She raised $4 million in like 2 days and took every member of the congressional caucus from Texas that was a Democrat, Sheila Jackson Lee, Al Green, who you just heard there saying, stop using God to enslave my people. You use God to put me in the back of the bus. That's Al Green. Okay, he's from Texas. They all went to Texas with this $4 million and bought food. And made sure it got to anybody that needed it, no matter what their economic situation is, no matter what their employment situation is, no matter what their immigration status was. Anybody that was hungry got food from Sheila Jackson Lee, from AOC, from Al Green in Texas, the whole Texas caucus. What's her name? The former judge. She's amazing too. They all went down there and they all fed as many people as they could, while Ted Cruz decides to go to Cancun, come back. He left his dog. Talk about he's got a little dog. And he left that dog in that freezing cold house. And the whole family packed up and went to the beach. What a sick and now it's a joke to him. Now it's all just a big damn joke. He literally went on some talk radio show and said, loosen up.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I have to tell you, I'm very disturbed about your personal comments about people. It's not just one or two. I think you deleted about 1,000 tweets.
She's referred to Republicans as evil and monsters. She's villainized Leader McConnell.
You wrote that Susan Collins is, quote, the worst, that Tom Cotton is a fraud, that vampires have more heart than Ted Cruz. You called Leader McConnell Moscow Mitch.
All true.
And Voldemort.
And I don't mind disagreements in policy. I think that's great.
Oh, yeah.
I love the dialectic. Oh. But the comments were personal. I mean, you call Senator Sanders everything but an ignorant slut.
She's even peddled a completely false conspiracy theory that Russian hackers changed votes in 2016 to help President Trump.
You actually have tweeted more in the past 4 years than President Trump tweeted as far as just numbers. And it's been pretty hostile, obviously. You've called Republicans criminally ignorant, corrupt, and the worst.
True.
My friendly advice to President Biden is to withdraw Neera Tannen's nomination and select someone who, at the very least, has not promoted wild conspiracy theories and openly bashed people on both sides of the aisle that she happens to disagree with.
I want the record to reflect that I did not call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. Okay?
Yeah, nobody did. That's the whole point, Mr. Kennedy. Honestly, so can you believe that Neera Tanden called Hillary Clinton the Antichrist and the real enemy? Oh, wait, no, that wasn't her. That was Ryan Zinke. Former Secretary of the Interior, who was confirmed, by the way, for his particular position with the help of Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the Democrat. How about the times that Neera Tanden tweeted that the NAACP was a pinko organization that hates white people? No, that was Jeff Sessions that tweeted that. That was Jeff Sessions, our former Attorney General of the United States. And he was confirmed with the help of Joe Manchin from West Virginia, the Democrat. Remember when Neera Tanden liked a tweet calling then Secretary of State John Kerry a traitor and Vietnam's worst export, and suggested that Clinton supporters leave the country? Yeah, except that was not her either. That was Mike Pompeo, our former Secretary of State, who also was confirmed with the help of Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia. But remember that really appalling tweet that Neera Tanden said when she tweeted that Muslims have a deficient theology and stand condemned before the eyes of God. No, that was our former OMB chairman, Russell Voigt, who was also confirmed after he tweeted that with the help of Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the Democrat. And now they're screaming that Neera Tanden cannot be the OMB, the head of the Office of Management and Budget, as if anybody cares who the chairman of the Office of Management and Budget is. Do you care who OMB's chairman is? Do you care? I mean, do you care more about $15 an hour minimum wage? Do you care more about a health care bill? Do you care more about protecting dreamers? Do you care more about the economy and the stimulus package? Or do you care who is in charge of the Office of Management and Budget and what Neera Tanden tweets? Because I don't. Do you remember when Neera Tanden tweeted that Omarosa Maginalt Newman is a crazed, lying lowlife and a dog? Now, I remember when Donald Trump tweeted that, and Neera Tanden responded and said, Trump just called a black woman a dog, and about 80% of the GOP don't think he's racist. The whole party needs to be defeated in November. That was a true statement. So whatever offense Mr. John Kennedy of Louisiana took, and why we're listening to people who objected to certifying a free and fair election in the United States of America, I don't know. Why would we listen to anything they had to say at this point? I mean, that party is truly, it's not even on life support. It's in hospice. You understand? That party is near dead. It's almost done. We have to make some end-of-life decisions for it because it is without any idea about what it is we are living through because of the lying, because of the dereliction of duty. They have no idea about our lives, and you know what? They don't need to. And do you know why? because the Senate of the United States of America only represents, the majority of the Republican Party altogether only represents 43% of all Americans. You understand that? They have an outsized role that they get to play because anything that we want to do to help ourselves, to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps, is blocked by a group of people who represent 43% of the people of this country and not even a bare majority. And that's why we must get rid of the filibuster, which goes right back to what we were talking about at the beginning. That the $15 an hour minimum wage, which is completely supported by an uber majority of Americans, I mean like above 70%, can't get done because the people who represent less than half of this country, 43%, have an outsized role to play in the Senate. You know, you can't pass anything in our Senate without a supermajority. Now, you got a party that represents literally 40 to 43% of Americans. And we require them to come along with us in order to pass anything that we want, like background checks, which 98% of Americans want, or a new health care public option, which 75% of American people want, or a minimum wage increase, which over 70% of the American people want. We have to win them. We have to win over Mitch McConnell. We have to win over Senator Kennedy. We have to win over people that literally countenance and accept that violence is part of their party's tools in their toolbox, that they can use violence as a tool in their toolbox. That's fascism. You know, fascism is, it's the acquiescence to the idea that violence is a tactic that is permitted in order to keep power. That's fascism. And clearly, they're all about that. So, unless and until we get real serious about the fact that the Republican Party represents less than half of America, and that we can't rely on them to do a damn thing for us, and therefore we need to end the filibuster and get things done so awesome can happen again, we're done.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
You know, if we were a foreign nation, the State Department would have issued a warning not to travel here, okay? Except we live here. We live here. We have to fix it here. You know, this is the Free Speech TV Spring Pledge Drive that has just begun. And so I just want to say we lived through the Trump era. We gave the most orienting factual information out so that people could reject him, and they did. And so thank God we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House now. At least the world knows there are adults back in the building, okay? But I don't know how long it's going to take to undo the damage. They're going to double down on it. The other side is, as you can see from Crazy Town CPAC with their golden idol. I mean, this is just, so that's why I ask you to support Free Speech TV, okay? Because together we can lead the charge to make sure this never happens again, okay? And it's critical that you guys of good conscience, people who read, people who care, people who are free of discriminatory, inclinations, people who understand the world in which they live in, support at least a channel, a station, a place on the cable, okay? A place on the TV where racism is a real thing that needs to be addressed. Racism affects us all. Sexism affects us all. And if we want to be a great nation, we need to face it bravely and truthfully. And that is what we do. So Monthly donations, always appreciated. Single donations, good. Anything that you can or want to do is doable right now. All you have to do is call this here number right there, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Or if you want to donate online, very easy, freespeech.org, freespeech.org. There are different things that you can get for different pledge amounts. As you can see, we're scrolling through them. There's the show mug. There is a sticker for $20. There is a hat. There's all kinds of things. So whenever you call and you make your pledge, ask them, what do I get if I do 50? What do I get if I do 20? And, the people on the other end of the phone, who are the people that work at Free Speech TV in Denver, will tell you exactly what you can what we would love to send you as a thank you gift for your pledge. So please, thank you, 877-378-8669 or freespeech.org. Totally appreciate it. Stephen in Washington.
Well, hi, Randy. Long time, first time.
Oh, hey.
I just wanted to let you know that somebody in Congress should get a hold of Kristen Sinema from Arizona and let her know about how the Arizona GOP is trying their hardest to suppress votes. And so she needs to help get rid of that filibuster because she might not be there at the next election. And also Manchin from West Virginia. Somebody in Congress should get a hold of him and say, hey, Biden, why don't you build a bunch of green energy battery cell plants there to take the place of coal plants to put your people to work? And so you need to support the filibuster. And that's what I just want to let you know.
You mean support overturning the filibuster, getting rid of it?
Yeah, getting rid of it.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know what Joe Manchin's problem is, but yes, West Virginia has a very skilled labor force that works really, really hard. They are people who are extremely ready, willing, and able to build things, to build wind turbines, to service wind turbines, to build anything and everything that we need to transition into a better way of powering ourselves. And I don't know why he doesn't see the opportunity here. I'm not sure exactly what that's about.
Exactly.
I don't think he trusts his own people.
Well, yeah, President Biden should tell them, okay, we'll build all these green energy plants in West Virginia for your coal workers. You don't need to worry about them not voting for you.
Exactly. Lydia in Washington.
Oh, hey, Randy.
Hey, Lydia.
I've been listening to you for so many years, and thanks. I've been going to the free speech school for years, getting educated, and you put it in such a way to understand in bits that I can swallow, even though so much news lately is hard to swallow. But yesterday I discovered C-SPAN, and I was listening to the House Representatives on the equality thing, and one thing really stood out was where the Republicans, I won't use any of the words you were using before about them. I'll resist, but saying that only 0.6% of our population is, identifies as any LGBTQ whatever, whereas 50.5% are women and 80% are religiously oriented, and so there's such a minority. Well, those people are also probably women and men and wherever in between. What does it matter? And a lot of them are religiously oriented. So, as if they're separate? I don't understand it. What do you think?
I don't know what you're asking me, but the speakerphone is really upsetting.
Oh, shoot. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I just wonder if you think that their argument about...
Here's the way to think about things, okay? It's really pretty simple. When there's no when someone is not receiving an equal treatment, then no one is receiving equal treatment.
Right.
And that's
right.
it. And it doesn't matter how many or how few. It's the same with justice, okay? Wherever there is injustice for anyone, there's injustice for everyone.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter how many people.
I know.
So
I just thought that was the most ridiculous argument.
Because they're ridiculous people who argue just so that they can, they're careerists just so that they can appeal to a bunch of people who are confused by things they don't understand.
Yeah. Well, and then one other side thing, your introduction host thought this might be too much, but because they kept using the argument about women in sports and girls, I was a gymnast, so it was particularly repulsive to have to, at the same day, hear about the gymnastics coach. And, and then there's these people defending that the girls would be safer in a locker room or a bathroom, if we don't pass this law. Yeah, right.
I don't know what they're talking about. Jim Jordan is a wrestling coach who stood there and watched hundreds of boys be abused sexually and said,
yeah, and talk about the church and abuse of boys.
Right. So where are they getting? I mean, obviously they know what they do, and they then transfer all of this sexual desire over to other people. It's really offensive, I have to say. And by the way, the thing about sports, we may have to, fix that. I don't know if Title IX is going to be protected, let's say. I don't know. I have to look at it. I have to look at the language and drill down real deep on that. But the idea that we're going to have burly, bearded gymnasts on the girls' team, oh my God, it's so twisted.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
And I know this might sound like a little bit of a downer, but we also believe in property rights, and this is a private hotel. And we believe in the rule of law, so we need to comply with the laws of this county that we're in. But a private hotel, just like your house, gets to set its own rules. Carly, our CPAC director.
Well, as Dan mentioned, we are in a private facility, and we do want to be respectful of the ordinances that they have as their private property. So please, everyone, when you're in the ballroom, when you're seated, you should still be wearing a mask. So if everybody can go ahead, work on that. I know, it's not the most fun.
You have the right.
Carly, you're the turd in the punch bowl at CPAC. Yeah, they don't want to wear a mask at CPAC, but they decided to have it at a private hotel, and that requires mask wearing because it's here in Florida. That is just so. Why wasn't it at Mar-a-Lago? How come it's not at a Trump property? Why didn't they have it at Doral? I don't know, but poor Carly. I actually feel bad for the director of CPAC who had to tell the CPACers that they had to wear a mask and, be the down. She had to be Debbie Downer at CPAC. We don't want to wear a mask. We just want to worship our golden idol. Where's Aaron? Aaron, bring out the ram. It's just so sick. Linda in Wisconsin.
Hi, Randi.
Hi, Linda.
First-time caller and long-time contributor to Free Speech TV. And I'm touching back on a subject you spoke about a little while back, and that was in regard to the civil rights of people, whether they're LGBTQ, whatever the case may be. But when it comes to any kind of legislation, whether it's firing people because of who they are or who they're married to, or allowing people to serve, to me that just reeks of being against the First Amendment. The way I take the First Amendment as a hardcore atheist, the way I take the First Amendment is that no establishment of religion, which means that you can't inflict your religious beliefs on somebody else, and you can't allow a person to be treated differently because they go against your particular religious beliefs.
Right.
And so I have a huge problem with, again, allowing to serve with people that are against abortion, whatever. If you don't believe in these things for yourself and you believe that these other people that are doing these things that are against your religion are sinning, then God should be punishing them, right? It's not up to you, because we have a constitution that we need to abide by. So that's my piece, basically. I find the Republican Party so completely disingenuous. It's just disgusting and disgraceful.
Yeah.
The whole thing that went on in Texas, for example. I know I'm straying from my topic, but to hear this, they wanted to be off the grid, and then as soon as they have problems, they come to the federal government with their hands out, and I resent it personally. The whole party is it just needs to go, personally.
Yeah,
but I wanted to say I've been enjoying listening to you since you've been put on free speech. I've been listening to free speech for quite some time, and I'm really glad you're on.
Oh, me too. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the whole idea that it is the government's business about, what God wants is bullcrap. It is not the government's business what God wants, or the government's business is to make sure that the general welfare of the people is taken care of.
Absolutely.
The business of government is to do the big things that no individual can do by themselves.
Well,
it's why
or the things it should be, in my opinion, the things that can't or shouldn't be done by private industry. And I think that we've seen with this whole virus what shouldn't be done by private industry. I work for a medical supply distributor, and we've been jumping through hoops trying to get product in, from obviously China, et cetera. But if we had manufacturers here, I understand that it's more expensive. Of course, that's a whole other Pandora's box. I don't believe that we should be allowing all of this outsourcing personally, unless it's things like, for example, bananas, where we can't grow enough within the U.S. to supply the demand. But when it comes to everything else, it's ridiculous that we're allowing all of this, because first of all, you're shortchanging the American worker. I mean, I don't care what other people say, and I've had arguments with plenty of my coworkers on this topic. But the Republican Party is not looking out for any of us. And when they try and act like they are, it's BS, totally. All they want to do is maintain power. They want power, wealth, and control. And that's all it is. And all these people that follow them, if they're not in that class, they're all rubes.
Well, look, it has nothing to do with industry. What I'm saying to you about your role for government in our lives, it has nothing to do with industry for me. It has to do with what government is there to do. And government is there to do the things that an individual cannot do on their own, like build an electric grid, okay? Or, regulate interstate commerce. Okay, that is what the role of government is. And government should never be concerned with what God wants, because that is a ridiculous proposition for an entity that is supported by taxation. And, if you want to get all biblical about it, even in the Bible, okay, Jesus understood that you render unto God what is God's and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, meaning taxation is for government. Religious beliefs or lack thereof, or it's an individual thing, and you don't need government for that, and you should leave government out of that. It's the only.
That's right. Everybody should be treated
only way
treated
government
equally.
can work. It's
that's right.
It's the only way, because other than that, what you get is injustice for some. Okay, absolutely. And like I said, when there's injustice for anyone, there's injustice for everyone. It's just that
and
obvious.
That's super well spoken. It's just, we need to somehow reestablish fairness in this country, because I just see it getting worse and worse, or they're trying to make it worse and worse. I feel like we are making some strides forward.
This whole infusion of religion into our politics is an invention of the GOP. It's an invention. It's something that they created out of whole cloth back in the 70s, when it became very clear that women were going to demand their right to control their lives, their right to do what they wanted with their lives when they wanted to do it. Okay, whether it was stay home, whether it was going to the workplace, whether it was to have children, whether it was to not have children, whether it was to marry, whether it was to not marry.
How dare us?
Right. And so they started preaching this biblical Phyllis Schlafly bullcrap in the Republican Party so that they could gain power over the white men. And that's and so we're back to like 1955 again with this Bolshevik party. And the only reason,
I know. Well,
and the only reason why they do it is because they have failed to deliver on any issue that matters to anyone. They have failed to deliver on a minimum wage. They have failed to deliver on individual freedom. They have failed to deliver on health care. They have failed to deliver on public schools. They have failed to deliver on infrastructure. They have failed anything you care about. They have failed to deliver on. But they're not willing to let go of power, so they preach this knowing of God's will for everybody. It's crazy.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, from yesterday's hearing, this had to be the most disgusting moment, truly. And yes, we're looking at a picture of Rand Paul. Yes, we are. Yes, the most disgusting moment in the history of moments in the Senate. Now, I want you to understand that Rand Paul is a doctor, and he's questioning a doctor, and he's talking about sexual reassignment surgery, which is a major, major commitment that an individual would make, and it's very expensive, and it's painful, and there's an enormous amount of psychological work that's done pre and post. And if you've ever known anybody who is transgendered, you know what I'm talking about. You know their struggle. This is Rand Paul's deduction about what somebody who chooses to go through this kind of life-changing, expensive, unbelievably difficult surgery. This is how he characterized it.
Most genital mutilation is not typically performed by force, but as WHO notes, that by social convention, social norm, the social pressure to conform, to do what others do and have been doing, as well as the need to be accepted socially and the fear of being rejected by the community.
Oh my God.
American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor.
I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
How completely together Dr. Rachel Levine was in the face of a moronic, deductive reduction of a person's field of excellence, to reduce it down to comparing it to what some backwards countries do to women to punish them, with genital mutilation being his starting point. I don't know how Dr. Rachel Levine kept her crap together in the face of that kind of disgusting, reductive, dismissive, small-minded questioning by Dr. Rand Paul, the ophthalmologist. It was the sickest thing I've ever heard a sitting senator do. As if there are no standards of care. Now, standard of care is exactly what a hospital, a doctor is supposed to and will follow. And if they don't, you have a nice malpractice case, okay? You do. And so there are standards of care when it comes to treating people who are transgendered, people who are requesting hormone treatment or are requesting sexual reassignment surgery, which, by the way, you don't just get to say, I want this, and no one pays for it. Do you know what I'm saying? It was such a horrible, horrific avenue of questioning that he chose for his adult self to participate in, with a doctor who obviously has done an extraordinary amount of work to design standards of care for transgendered individuals so that they are treated well by the medical community. I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe that this. See, this is what's wrong with that party, and this is why that party is on life support. As science evolves, and as our understanding of each other evolves, and as people understand the needs of other people, and we try to limit the deaths of despair in this country that are a result of discrimination or hatred or a lack of information about a situation, a family finds themselves in, or the inability to connect the ladder of opportunity to the opportunity, meaning you don't have the ability to go where the work is, whatever it is that concerns us as an evolving democracy. Trust me, that party right there doesn't give a rat's ass about it. They don't care. They're a spent force is what they are. They are literally led by a failing old con man. They are literally led by a failing ideology that says, give all the money to the top, it'll trickle down on you. That says they know what God wants for you. That says we have a golden idol that we are going to pray to this weekend in Orlando, Florida, and that is our party. They are on death's door, and you have to understand, they are exhausted by their own failure. And when I hear that, I just, it makes you just want to go to Kentucky and start campaigning right now for anybody that isn't Rand Paul and anybody that isn't Mitch McConnell.
The patience that she showed tells me that she has been dealing with his type of ignorance for a while.
A long, long experience with that kind of nastiness. It's not ignorance. He's not ignorant. See, Rand Paul is a doctor, and he's not ignorant, okay? What he is purposeful. He's reductive, meaning he wants to take whatever is important to you and reduce the importance of it to you, because what's important to him is maintaining power. And therefore, whatever you care about, whatever your concern is, he has to reduce it to nothingness so that you will vote for him. He has to tell you that other people are responsible for what's happening to you, and that the power structure in this country is not responsible for what's happening to you. But it's all too true that when you have a party that represents less than 43% of this country in complete control over what actually gets passed and what doesn't, what's left on the cutting room floor, like a $15 minimum wage, or what does get passed, when they are responsible for passing legislation that improves the lives of others, healthcare, infrastructure, the green new energy thing that would create trillions of dollars in GDP. It would create hundreds of thousands of jobs in Kentucky. It would create millions of jobs nationwide. And they are responsible for killing those jobs. Then yes, the responsibility is with him. And he just wants to reduce the importance of whatever it is that you want fixed. Whatever it is. And this is an issue of justice. This is an issue of access. This is an issue of fairness. This is an issue of less hatred, okay? And they're not about that. He's about increasing the hatred and increasing injustice and increasing the discrimination and the disparity by pointing over there and saying, no, see, it's like giving the right to live freely to a transgendered individual is somehow depriving this white guy in Kentucky from achieving his lifelong dream of making more than $7.25 an hour. You know, this is why they're a dying dead party. This is why they're a necrotic, oozy, pussy gravy sore anymore. They have sclerosis. They are cancerous rot inside the government with an outsized influence over what gets passed and what doesn't. Listen, there are a lot of solutions, and one of them is to get rid of the filibuster and take away their ability to maintain the status quo of $7.25 an hour. Do you know what I'm saying? They don't want things to get better. They want you angry and fearful and flailing so they can sell you this garbage that someone else getting rights somehow takes them away from you, when it's exactly the opposite. An injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. And he's not ignorant. Neither is Mitch McConnell. Remember that.